So today I'm joined by Tamara Liebman from Calibrate Legal, and Tamara works with SMEs regularly. I wanted to get her take on GSAs and security over your business when it comes to lending and creditors, and I'll hand it over to Tamara before I get myself in trouble.
you know all about lending though. So I mean, as Gemma knows, lenders don't just lend money without expecting something in return. They want to see that their loan is secured over the assets of the company, and the assets can be physical assets, and then they can be intangible assets as well, like brands. And I've found in my work that a lot of business owners don't understand how their lending and security arrangements with their lenders are working. So when they come to want to do something like buying a business or selling a business, we need to do a lot of work to clear securities off, or to make the lenders happy, to release securities, or to make other parties happy about what they're getting. So it's something that I want to share with people so that they can start thinking about making sure they understand what their arrangements are, and or if they don't understand, getting help from the right people to work that stuff out. Yeah. So one example is a client who recently sold. The client's a company, right? And so it owns a number of businesses under the same company, and they were selling one of the businesses, which was a brand. And they had bank lending over all of the assets of the company. So when it came to selling that brand, the bank was interested because it was part of the security for the bank's loan, and it was tied up with all of the other arrangements that customer has with the bank. So it wasn't as easy as just selling the brand. We still needed to get the bank's consent to do that, and work out with the bank how much money they wanted repaid out of the sale proceeds, in exchange for the bank agreeing to release that asset. And that made the whole transaction a lot more complicated, and it created a lot of additional unnecessary stress, I think, for all parties, including their lovely banker and the client, who's trying to run a business but also had to run around sorting this out, and us and the purchaser and the purchaser's lawyers.
And they probably had a goal for the money that they were receiving from the sale, and now having to negotiate whether or not they get to keep that money.
That's right.
And all of that.
Exactly. Yes. And what they thought was really quite a small transaction turned into something a lot more complicated because of that. I guess one way to avoid this sort of thing is to have different entities holding your different brands and businesses. But that's a good thing to talk to your accountant about, is the best way to structure your asset ownership. So lots of lessons out of that particular transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was sharing an example with Tamara before we got started about an instance recently where I had a client who had a $1.5 million turnover. When they were setting up their trade agreements with their suppliers and whatnot, they'd agreed to a GSA for a $1,000 credit limit with one of their suppliers, and when it came time to getting lending, they were unable to take fully secured lending of any sort because there was a GSA in place. And when they visited their lawyer, the lawyer agreed, yes, that's what you've agreed to with this agreement with your supplier. So it's being fully aware and understanding what security you're offering and how it applies to your situation, and whether it's really necessary to offer full security of all your business assets for a $1,000 credit limit, or like Tamara mentioned earlier, tying up different entities for one cause that may not actually be necessary for this other entity. But
yeah,
it always comes back to seeking the right advice from the right specialist. And I've mentioned before, if you need legal advice from a commercial lawyer, see a commercial lawyer. If you need conveyancing, go to a conveyancing lawyer, and don't try and cut corners by just, make sure you're using the right specialist for the right job.
Absolutely, yeah. And maybe don't just rely on your banker to explain what you're getting into, because a lot of the time, they work for the bank, they're not working for you, and a lot of them don't really understand how much they need to explain about the structure, and that's why using someone like Gemma, who looks after you and can explain the whole situation to you, is the best way to go.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we've got more topics coming up with Tamara, because she's got so much that you need to know and I'm lucky to have her time. And I'm also going to put links through to Tamara, so if you want to continue the conversation, you'll be able to find her easily. Thank you.
Thanks, Gemma.